Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Coming up this afternoon, communications experts predict failure over government's intention to create 5 portfolios for communicators as no appropriate structure exists. Upper East Minister angry over 10% kickbacks for contracts. And cocoa processing company justifies the branding of chocolates for Cocoa Board boss over his 60th birthday. And on the firing front this afternoon, German Chancellor Angela Merkel launches a new round of coalition talks in a bid to end the country's political stalemate. We have sports, entertainment, all coming up later. Stay with us. Let's start with our stories. Now we look at one of our headline stories, and there is a public outcry over the emergence of chocolate branded with a picture of Cocoa Board Chief Executive Joseph Boahene Edu as he celebrated his 60th birthday. Last week, the management of the cocoa processing company produced 6 boxes of Golden Tree chocolates, specially branded with a picture of the Cocoa Board CEO, which was distributed to guests at his birthday ceremony. There has been a huge public uproar on social media over the branding by the CPC, with many calling it profligate. Now, this is not the first time an individual has been branded on chocolates produced by the CPC. Former First Lady Lordina Mahama and President Mahama all had their pictures branded on CPC chocolates in a bid to increase consumption and rebrand the products. Now, when the African Development Bank boss visited Ghana last year, a similar chocolate brand was produced to honor him. And still on this story, let's speak to Nana Ajiman Boateng. He is the managing director of the cocoa processing company. Good afternoon, Nana, and thanks for agreeing to speak with us.
Good afternoon, and thanks also, and greetings to your viewers.
Now, why did CPC decide to produce the chocolates branded with the CEO's picture on it?
I must say that it is something that CPC is doing. But it's only maybe we've not been able to create an awareness as to what we can do. That is what maybe has brought about this issue. It's been with us ever since that we do it, and we do it. Anybody can just walk in and we can do it for you.
You spoke about awareness creation. Even before we look at the chocolates, the quantity that was produced, what prevented your outfit from doing some bit of awareness creation on this bit of your job?
No, that's what I'm saying, that it's just like we do the normal chocolate, which we sell outside, like you know. But if anybody can just walk in to say, I want a branded chocolate, so you do the wrapper, and then we then charge you for it. So whatever that you are seeing there, it is the only difference is an additional 10% add on our wholesale price. So granted that our wholesale price for a 50-gram bag, this as you are saying, is 442 cedis. So if you come to look for a branded chocolate, then it will be 486 cedis, which is 10% addition.
Now, how many chocolates were produced, and who paid for that very quantity?
The invoice was issued to the CEO, Mr. Edubois himself. It was 6 cartons. We did that, as you've seen, the 300 of such. So 3 cups in each for 300 was 900. And so we did a total of 1,200. So it was a 300 and 1.5 cartons added on. So if you put together, it doesn't even come up to 3,000 cedis. Curricula 486 cedis times 6.
So who exactly paid for it? Because information we're picking is that the general manager at the CEO's office mentioned that he personally paid for it, just to clear the doubts.
With the office, with the great respect, as the managing director, I will not be at the accounts department. But the invoice was invoiced to the CEO personally, and that is how maybe the gentleman is saying he paid for it. But if for anything, tomorrow we can all clarify from the office, tomorrow from the accounts department.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. So that's to say that you are not aware who exactly paid for the quantity.
The invoice was to the person, that is Wine Edu. And you're asking, because the money will not come to the managing director, it will get to the accounts office. So that's what I'm saying. But the invoice was to the person, and that is how the gentleman is saying he paid for it. Because when the invoice is gets to that person, they will come and pay at the accounts office. But with this Sunday, that's what I'm saying, that tomorrow we can clear from the office.
Now, what is the justification for taking into account that we've had some persons, including the former First Lady and the former President, being bashed by the then government NPP when their pictures appeared on similar chocolates?
I may say that it is something that CPC should use this opportunity and let the whole world know of our capacity and capabilities as to what we can do, so that it can even add on for us to get more jobs to do, so that everybody can just walk in and not necessarily go outside to do something like this when you are doing any occasion. But it's like, whatever that it is, as an indigenous institution, we also have that capacity to do something like this, which can also bring us more revenue. And for us, this is the new initiation and innovation that this new management we are putting up to and trying to do to create this awareness.
All right. Well,
which
thank you.
Maybe I can say it's been long overdue and now creating this issue.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I have been speaking to Nana Agyeman Boateng. He is the MD director, that's the managing director for CPC. You're still watching Midday Live. To another headline story, and government plans to establish 5 portfolios this year to take care of its communication. Information Minister Mustafa Hamid told the media in Accra the measure has become necessary due to the overwhelming demand for access to government information.
Since being sworn in, President Akufo-Addo has appointed a record 110 ministers and deputies. Apart from this, most ministers have more than one deputy. The Information Ministry has 3 deputies, making it one of the highest so far. Yet, the Sector Minister Mustafa Hamid says his ministry still needs more persons to discharge its mandate.
Not all media houses are able to reach us for information. There are 350 active radio stations in Ghana. We have 45 newspapers that are on the stands every day. There are about 16 active television stations that are working 24 hours in our country. Now, so that means that the scramble for information is bigger than the channels that are available through which people will get the information.
Mustafa Hamid, at a meeting with the media, has hinted of plans to establish 5 offices for government communication corresponding to cabinet subcommittees.
When we appoint the spokespersons, it will open more channels for you to be able to access government and access government information. So it will deepen the democratic process and improve access to information.
But would these not constitute duplication and waste of resources?
It's the government that campaign of overspending in this country. But he came into office and appoint the unprecedented number of ministers. The ministers and deputies at various offices are unprecedented. And we are appointing new other officers to be spending. Do you consider the taxpayers' money going into payment of these people?
My brother, this question is like being between a rock and a hard place, as they say. In one breath, you are complaining as media people that the channels open for receiving government information are too small. If the channels are too small, what is the solution? The solution is to open the channels. So really, you cannot make omelets without breaking eggs. I'm sorry.
So still on this very topic, let me go via Skype and speak to Dr. Kobi Mensah, and he is a communications expert, to talk a lot more about this very issue. Good afternoon, Doctor, and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Now, in the last comments made by the minister, who was explaining why 5 portfolios were necessary, he mentioned that the media had complained they needed more channels to speak to government, and they are opening the channels. Is this really necessary?
Well, I'm afraid I should say that that is not necessary, because the media, as the honorable minister was actually pointing out, shouldn't have to be scrambling. Also, very clear access points through which the media can actually access. So not all the time that media has to seek government information, but government has to proactively reach media with what information necessary for the public to hear. It is important that if you actually look at our political system, right down from the party political structures to government structures, you don't have any coherent, and also to the so I think that is the problem. They need to have a very clear protocols. They need to have a very clear document that guide collaborations and information sharing. That's what they need. They don't need many other people to actually man these things, because no matter what they get, the fact that we don't have the structures, we don't have the coded or codified, guidelines that actually determine those information go to, nothing could be done to help the situation.
Now, there's a bit about strain on the public purse, and as well as in some time past, we did hear of different individuals or personalities who were speaking on behalf of government, and there had been some bit of miscommunication. What do you make of this?
Well, definitely, like I said, if you don't have, guidelines to actually kind of steer people the way they must communicate, then of course what you're going to have is people would speak from gut feelings, people would speak from intuitions, and there is no collaboration because there is no paperwork that guide how people actually communicate or how institutions collaborate, and as a result, put information outside. So I think that the political parties should actually start with immediate effect, looking at some of these things. In fact, there is research, and currently I'm actually, editing a particular paper that actually shows that political parties lack guiding, frameworks, i.e. guiding documents that actually tells them how to communicate within themselves and outside themselves. The same thing is actually carried on into government. So I don't think that the issue that we're finding with government communication has to do with perhaps, capacity, but it has to do with, guidelines. They don't have it. And of course, even when it comes to, the human resource capacity, they don't organize training for some of these people, especially from the party political perspectives. And the same thing is carried on into government. So what they need is effective systems, as in protocols, guidebooks, as in training, as in capacity building, so that they can solve some of these issues out, rather than spending money, recruiting a lot of people to do the same thing, which doesn't actually come out with any results, effective results.
Now, aside from that, we're celebrating 25 years as a fourth republic, and there's some who have come up strong saying that there's so many celebrations which are characterizing this very event. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that it is important for us to recognize the fourth republic, being 25 years. I think it's a very good thing for us to recognize that, because the fourth republic has actually sort of stabilized this country, has actually underpin our democratic credentials. But of course, celebrations doesn't mean that it has to be big. I mean, when you say the celebrations, it doesn't mean that you have to spend millions and millions of Ghanaian cedis, doing that. You could have, in a very short ceremony, you could have a seminar, you could have certain symposiums to underline that. So I don't think that we need a very, razzmatazz, kind of celebrations, or we need a very, huge, event to commemorate the 25 years. We could still have that in a very modest but effective way.
All right, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Kobi Mensah. We do apologize again for that loss of sound during that interview. You're still watching Midday Live, and former President John Dramani Mahama has dared the current government to prosecute him and his wife, the former First Lady Lordina Mahama, if indeed it's true that they had a hand in the establishment of the Ponzi Microfinance Company, DKM, that duped hundreds of residents of the Bono Ahafo region. He indicated that the New Patriotic Party, NPP, in opposition, peddled all manner of falsehood about the ownership of the company, to the extent that he claimed he and his wife were majority shareholders for political gain.
NPP for the intro said, DKM Jumano, I am a Lordina dear. Enti Omoba.
Whilst in opposition, they said myself and my wife Lordina had a hand in the DKM establishment. Well, we are waiting them to come and prosecute us. They should come and arrest us and jail us. You can lie yourself into power, but you cannot lie yourself to govern forever.
Saudi Bakua, this outside Dimienu and throw a kahon, inside Dimia Sakahon. If we say and throw and Timinta until a chassis aging him, this would do Trobacco, a kahon, not to be chalky way. We will not me knowing him, this would do Tromi and San a kahon, not chalky me no. And so and try and I would
And still on the former president, he says the NPP government has not fulfilled its single promise being made in the 2016 campaign. Former President Mahama says the NPP has lost the focus in the administration of the state, hence every Ghanaian crying over poverty. Johnson Tichi's report.
Former President John Dramani Mahama joined the National Democratic Congress at a peace walk which lasted for 3 hours at the Techiman Zongo MA School Park in the Bono Ahafo region. He said the NPP deceived Ghanaians, leading to the party's success in the 2016 general elections.
Branch executive so, regional executive so, constituency executive so, national executive so, Yambo Modia send your beya, Nipa Dom no Peno, Omon Yebe Yomo. Na me wo gidie se nyame adom san ne beba no na eba no san so a na 2020 de nyame adom Arizona 2020 de
You're still watching Media Live. Let's look at one of our headline stories. And the Upper East Regional Minister, Roxanne Bukari, has warned against public officers who demand 10% of SAM's form contractors after awarding them deals, describing it as corruption, which must be nipped in the bud. The minister said most contractors tend to execute shoddy works when authorities that award them those projects demand 10% of the contract sum as their share.
It is evident that our nation's progress towards economic development has been hampered by the widespread of corruption. Successive governments of over the years attempted with varying degrees to uproot this social canker without success, with the last regime being the worst. Contract awards are tainted with corruption and favoritism and do not serve national interests, as awards may go to incompetent non-performers. The expression 10% is synonymous with corruption. In line with His Excellency's vision to fighting corruption, I have from the scratch publicly declared a tender committee, heads of departments, meetings, other public events, operation no 10%. And all contract awards must go to credible contractors without projects and serve the people of this region, and to further ensure that there is value for money and the Upper East region will benefit.
This is Midday Live. We have more shortly. Thanks for staying. January 7 marks exactly 25 years of governance under Ghana's Fourth Republic. In the following report, we take you a trip through Ghana's 25 years down the line.
Described as the longest republic without any military intervention, this is the first time in the history of the country that it has survived 25 years as a republic. The first republic was truncated after 6 years. The second republic survived for only 24 months. After 28 months, the third republic was overthrown and then followed by over a decade of military rule. In 1992, the Fourth Republic was ushered in with Jerry John Rawlings as president on the ticket of the National Democratic Congress (NDC).
That I will be faithful
and true
to the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
So help me God.
So help me God.
In our constitution, we provided that 5%, at least 5% of the total revenue of this country must be put into a fund that is called the District Assembly Common Fund for only the development of this country. So after 1993, this country has experienced a lot of development across the length and breadth of this country. In every district that you visit today, you'll find modern school buildings, modern hospitals, modern roads, and all kinds of infrastructure.
Described by many as the Republic of the Johns, the Fourth Republic has had 4 constitutionally elected presidents who all had John as their Christian names: Jerry John Rawlings, John Agyekum Kufuor, John Evans Atta Mills of blessed memory, and most recently John Dramani Mahama. Under the Fourth Republican journey, which began with the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution, Ghana has practiced multi-party democracy for 25 uninterrupted years. The 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana that came into effect on January 7, 1993, provides the basic charter for the country's 4th attempt at Republican democratic government since independence in 1957. It declares Ghana to be a unitary republic with sovereignty residing in the Ghanaian people. The Constitution reflects the lessons drawn from the abrogated constitutions of 1957, 1960, 1969, and 1979, and it incorporates provisions and institutions drawn from British and United States constitutional model.
In 1992, the leadership of this country at the time, that is the PNDC, decided to involve all manner of persons in making the constitution to drive us into the democratic dispensation. Butchers were invited to participate in the consultative assembly. Market women were invited. Farmers were invited. Lawyers were invited. All kinds of professionals were invited to participate in the constitution, in the making of the constitution. So before the adoption of the constitution, a referendum took place in this country. The outcome of the referendum was a yes. It is the longest period that the people of this country have enjoyed democracy. It should tell you that involving the people in decision making is very key.
Going through 25 years of democratic practice where governments have smoothly transferred power from one administration to another, this is rare in African politics, where elections are seen as a make-or-break affair.
Ghana has every reason to celebrate that we have an enduring modern democratic practice, a viable parliament. What parliament needs to do is to improve upon its oversight. You see, for instance, question time for ministers is largely a weapon or tool used by the minority or political opposition. So how do you achieve oversight when it's a one-sided thing? And it's been so since 1993. The NDC and the MPP is as guilty.
The first regime of the Fourth Republic saw the reign of former President Jerry John Rawlings, whose leadership transitioned from a military government to a constitutional rule in response to demands for a more democratic process. After 2 terms in office, barred by the Constitution from standing in any election, Rawlings endorsed his vice president, late Professor John Atta Mills, as presidential candidate in 2000. Other leaders under the Fourth Republic are former President John Agyekum Kufuor, late Professor John Evans Atta Mills, and former President John Dramani Mahama. Current President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is the 5th president, having won elections in December 2016.
Bring you more of that story later. And the deputy ranking member of the Employment Committee of Parliament, Richard Kwashiga, has rebutted the Ghana Immigration Service defense for the sale of e-vouchers, describing it as extortion. His argument is based on similar exercise 2 years ago, where the process was suspended without refunding the monies to the applicants.
About 84,000 people applied to be employed across the country into the Ghana Immigration Service, but only 500 are expected to be selected to join the service nationwide. Per calculations, the GIS has accrued 4,231,850 cedis, having priced the e-vouchers at 50 cedis each. The Ghana Immigration Service has been widely criticized by the public, but the Public Relations Office has reportedly defended their action, saying the money would go into covering the costs incurred during the recruitment process, among other things. But the MP for Keta disagrees.
How much, do they spend in the process of getting these young people recruited? Is it the case that they use these monies for allowances for those who train them? Are those people not being paid? They must give us a breakdown. And more so, when they all have budgets approved for them, for goods and services, which will include recruitment and etc. We must investigate and interrogate these matters.
The Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament's Committee on Employment, Richard Kwashiga, alleged applicants who lost their monies due to the suspension of the recruitment exercise 2 years ago never had their monies refunded.
Will it not have been fair that when they've taken the decision now to proceed with the recruitment exercise, they would have recalled these young people from whom they took 100 Ghana, who they started the process with? That has not happened. Meanwhile, they have taken fresh amounts of money, monies from young people. I think that clearly is fraudulent.
He pledged readiness to assist the applicants seek justice.
I am encouraging all young people from whom the Immigration Service collected 100 Ghana previously from to take an action and go to court. I am ready to lead that charge on their behalf.
This is Midday Live. Motorists and commuters on the Klagon-Sherman Road have threatened to stop paying road levies if their road is not fixed. Construction on the road has been abandoned for almost 10 years. Here's a report by Frederick Clarence Williams.
Construction on the Klagon-Sherman Road began in 2008, but it is yet to be completed due to funding. Motorists have to meander through the crater-like pothole on a daily basis. The situation worsens anytime it rains. Motorists, especially taxi and commercial drivers plying the route daily, complain of frequent mechanical faults. However, most are left with no choice than to stagger on. A stretch that would take commuters and motorists only 2 minutes to cross now takes over 10 minutes due to the poor nature of the road. Motorists exercise extreme caution meandering the potholes to protect their vehicles. The Klagon-Ashaiman Road for many years has remained untarred and dusty, inconveniencing residents. Shoulders of the road continue to erode gradually. Residents and road users are threatening a demonstration if authorities do not fix the road.
I will not pay this road to if the authorities does not continue this particular portion. It affects me a lot. Anytime you pass here, you see your ball joints will spoil. Some part of your car will be broken down, and then you have to suffer a lot before you get a mechanic to come and repair it for you, and then you have to pay some huge amount.
Before, there's no traffic here, but because of this road, now there's a lot of traffic in the morning, and especially we have a lot of dust. We can't sit in our office.
Let's focus on markets, and we head to the Ashanti region where 5 satellite markets in Kumasi have been abandoned as traders prefer plying their trade on pavements and other open spaces within the central business district of the metropolis. Constructed almost 10 years ago, some of the markets have their shops permanently locked.
The 5 are Binchi, Edwenase, Pankrono, Bremai and Patase satellite markets in the Ashanti region. These markets have basic facilities such as toilets and security with the capacity to accommodate over 600,000 traders. But most shops and shares in the markets are empty, though traders have paid for them. Meanwhile, the traders have virtually taken over pavements in the city center to sell their goods. Pedestrians have to compete for space with the traders. The Kumasi Traditional Council and the Metropolitan Assembly have threatened to rid the central business district of hawkers and ensure the satellite markets are occupied. The decongestion exercise is part of a city beautification initiative of the Assembly. The KMA and the Traditional Council have engaged the various transport unions and traders associations to assess the state of various markets in the metropolis.
When you talk about those who are selling on the street, those who are selling on the pavement, you can classify them in 4 groups, and all their leaders are here. We have taken their leaders around to let them know that there are a lot of available places where they can go there and do their business without any obstruction.
Bantamahini Bafwa Saramankweti vowed the Kumasi Traditional Council will not tolerate the selling of goods on the streets, pavements and other unauthorized places in the city.
Still in the Ashanti region, but away from the markets, work will soon be completed on the construction of a 6-unit block of flats to accommodate staff of the Sakarawano SD Basic School in the Kwabre West District. Now, the project, funded by the Forestry Commission, is to help ease the school's staff accommodation challenges.
Forestry Commission has given the Sakarawano's SDA Basic School 100,000 cedis to complete the construction of its staff accommodation units. The project will accommodate 16 teachers. The Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission, Kojo Usuefriye, said the support was in response of a request by the church and the school. The Chief Executive believes access to education will also encourage rural communities to maintain the forest.
In this community, and we have, say, 2,000, 3,000 people here. We should be able to plant 2,000 trees, and we should nurse it from its nursery stage up to the time that it grows. And then you put your name around it so that you forever say that I did this, I planted this tree.
Head teacher of the school, Emmanuel Bandele, said lack of accommodation for teachers has adversely affected education in the school.
To the central region, and residents of Isikumo Dobin Brakwa district are crying for improved roads. The stretch linking Brakwa, a community close to the district capital, and the rest of the region is in a poor state.
The district produces cocoa and other foodstuff. A poor road network is, however, a setback to development. Several hours are spent on the stretch. The only road linking Ebuakwa to other parts of the district is collapsing.
I want to entreat the current government, the DCA and the MP, that they should focus on the road. And I also plead to the road minister and Nana Addo that our plea is to come and help Esikuma Odobin Brakwa roads.
Efforts to get roads fixed have not been successful. District authorities say they are working hard at fixing roads, but will need support.
90% is about feeder roads. The road shaping normally done by the assembly and some to done by the regional feeder roads. So we are moving hand in hand with them.
Residents say economic activities have collapsed due to this. Several investors have refused to set up businesses in the district due to the poor road network.
These roads are very, very bad, especially those within our district. And so it is very difficult for us to get investors coming. Even during our festival, those who are convinced enough to come, when they come, they don't want to return again because of poor roads. We have the view that if the government is able to give us good roads, the rest should be left to us.
Residents of the district are appealing to government to come to their aid.
And now to the Western region, and residents of Fauma in Swano, a farming community in the Dromo district, are calling for help to urgently construct a toilet facility. For now, both males and females share a makeshift structure that leaves no room for privacy.
This is the only toilet facility serving residents of Fauma in Swano, a cocoa farming community in the Jomoro district of the Western region. It is used by both males and females in the community, depriving them of privacy and infections. This is a challenge for the over 250 residents. Those who dare engage in open defecation are sanctioned. Members of the unit committee say digging a trench for females is a challenge. Meanwhile, several appeals to the district assembly to help them construct a standard toilet facility are yet to yield a positive response. For now, what is certain is that both young and old, male and female, will continue to share the makeshift structure that leaves no room for privacy.
And it's been exactly 3 weeks after the gruesome murder of Rahinat Al-Hassan at her residence in Bimbilla, but her children and her husband are yet to recover from the shock. The family is calling for justice for Rahinatu. Zubaida Ismail spent time with the family of the late Rahinatu and has filed this report.
The deceased had her life cut short by a yet-to-be-identified gunman on Tuesday, December 12, 2017, in front of her 4 children, one as young as 4 years, with the oldest being 19 years. Rahinatu Al-Hassan, 40, a native of Bimbilla, was shot several times, according to officials at the Bimbilla Government Hospital. Her second child, 14-year-old Khadija Bediakon, recalled seeing the gunman who opened fire on them standing at the door that leads to their father's room on that fateful day, where they were watching television at about 8 p.m. The husband of Rahinatu Al-Hassan, who works at the Karaga District Assembly, was away during the incident but experienced the horrific ordeal via phone as he was on the phone with the wife at the time she was shot.
I had a call from a friend telling me there's some shooting around your residence. So call your wife to find out. When I called her, she responded. They said there's some shooting incidents around our area. The woman replied, oh, we are in the room, so we have not heard it. We have not heard it. That was the last word when I heard strikes. How?
A police report from the Bimbilla Police Command confirmed the claims by the children, but added that Abraham Bediako, husband of the late Rahinatu, was the target. Khadija Bediakon, a junior high school 3 student, sat next to her mum when the incident happened. She said she no longer feels safe staying in Bimbilla. Mohammed Kamil Bediakon, 19, a senior high school 3 student of the Bimbilla Senior High School, the first child of late Rahinatu, and Bediakon recounted moments when his mother took her last breath.
She was about getting up, so they shot her and she fell back. So I tried closing the door when the gun shot stopped. So I closed the door and locked it and I the face was facing the ground, so I tried to turn her up and see. So I turned her and I saw the eyes, it was white. So I used my hand and brushed the face. So I called her twice. She didn't answer.
2 other children of late Rahinatul Hassan are currently living with their grandmother. A total of 10 women and 2 children were killed between February 9 and December 12, 2017 in Bimbilla. This has raised the fears of women who took to the streets of Bimbilla to demand an end to the killing of women and children in the area. The district chief executive Yakubu Abdullahi said he now walks with shame as the news of the killing of women in Bimbilla sends horrifying signal to the world. Meanwhile, family members of the other 11 women and children are losing hope in the security apparatus in Bimbilla.
Well, there's more shortly, and we have sports next. Do stay. Thank you very much indeed, Nana Kujofre. Let's do international news now. And German Chancellor Angela Merkel has launched a round new of coalition talks in a bid to end the country's political stalemate. More than 3 months after its election, Germany is still without a new government. The 5-day talks will include Angela Merkel's Christian Democrats, CDU, its sister party Christian Social Union, CSU, and the Social Democrats, SPD. Many see this as a last chance for a stable coalition. Well, that's all for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Do have a lovely afternoon.